Greetings, my friends, and welcome to the second discourse of the First Church of the Presence of God. We are here tonight in our virtual cathedral because we don't actually have a physical church, but you see, that is not entirely necessary because we exist in an adytum. That's the term, I believe, for our body being the temple of the Holy Ghost. And that's what this church is all about, celebrating the indwelling presence. There seems to be this huge disconnect that has happened over the course of history. I don't even know if perhaps, surely wars have been fought about it under different auspices or pretenses, but it's this peculiar idea that many people have, especially fundies, or those who have become so fundamentalized because they can't think outside the box. They really need the structure and parameters of dogma and cant. If they don't have those, who knows what might be exposed to them about themselves. It's a much safer thing, you see. And you don't fall down so often with training wheels on your bicycle. Of course, you can forget to take them off too, which, geez, I don't know. Anyway, there's been this disconnect about God within, God without. Because there are a lot of people who think God's in the sky up there somewhere. In fact, there are people that actually think God is an old guy with a long white beard, and he's up there, and there's angels, and that this is true however you look at it. There are angels all over the place with harps, and they're singing, and that's true actually too. However, we may not be seeing it exactly as it is. But in any case, God is everywhere. So in a sense, they're right. God is somewhere up there in a heaven, because the heaven is in a higher loka, which is a higher vibrational sphere that you can't see with your sensory apparatus, because they operate on a very narrow bandwidth. Your eyes, your ears, they only see within a certain, bandwidth. Everything outside of that, they don't see. So here's an interesting thing, which I happen to know to be true. There are beings all around you. Oh, there are. You can't see them. And out of these, there are many types of beings. Some of them are wonderful, very nice, and some of them not at all. They're not very nice. Some are very powerful, some are not powerful. And they generally take their power from what they feed off of. Some of them feed off of human fear. Some of them feed off of love. In fact, you might say angels, that is the sustenance by which they exist. Well, my friends, as Mikhail Ivanov once said, if you could see who shows up to have lunch when you're making love, you really start to think about how you did it a little more and under what, with what in mind and so on. Because, the entire seemingly invisible world is populated. They are everywhere. Anyway, perhaps we can all agree on one point. God is the most powerful force in the universe. Nothing is more powerful than God. And when you say, thy will be done, God's will is done at all times, everywhere, no matter what. Now, there are these people that are afraid of all kinds of things. The Russians, the Chinese, the people down the street, and a lot of bad customers that are running around out there these days, and there are quite a few of them. Well, because they're deluded and lost. And we live in a time of materialism, you see. intense materialism. And what materialism does, it does a number of things. One of the things that it does, because of the haves and the have-nots, is it creates a criminal culture. It creates all kinds of criminals. First of all, the government is a criminal because it steals whatever it can get away with from you and spends it on all kinds of things you don't agree to. And it turns us into criminals because we have to find a way around the government. And then it turns all kinds of other people criminals because they don't have anything. So they try to take it from the people that have too much, who go out of their way to protect their interests, of course. And a lot of the people who have a great deal, they got it through crime too. They stole it also. So that's one of the things that come out of materialism. And the other thing is insanity. Materialism will make you crazy. The more completely involved you get in the external world and everything around you, the more you develop psychopathic or neurotic conditions that get worse and worse and worse. Eventually you go out of your mind. Yeah, you do. And you're seeing it happen everywhere now. It's happening all over the place. And this is because there's this fellow here. It's an entity, actually. He's God in a particular permutation. And he's called, well, I call him this because he told me that's who he was, Mr. Apocalypse. He is the dynamic energy of the apocalypse. And what he does is goes around and uncovers things. He uncovers, he reveals, he exposes, and he's got a sense of justice, very much so, and a wicked sense of humor and a great sense of irony too. And so he's in the process of exposing a lot of things people wish would stay hidden. But his major function is to either in the vanguard of the awakening. There's an awakening taking place, my friends. Well, it depends on who you're talking to. But nonetheless, you see in the first church of the presence of God, we are allowed to vape and smoke and such things. It doesn't offend God whatsoever, because I know if it did, he would tell me. So, yeah, I have that kind of relationship. I get out of line. Oh, wow. So I tend to stay in line. But anyway, back to Mr. Apocalypse. The awakening. And so what he is, he's inside everybody's head right now. He's inside your head. Whether you know it or not is beside the point. But there's only one mind, you see, my friends. We all think we have individual and separate minds, but we don't. There's one mind. And we're just all pieces inside of it. But since we separate it, we personalize it, and that's self-interest. When that comes around and we get selfish and into our identity and our ego, we actually think we're set apart from everything else, but it's all one. You've heard that plenty of times, but if you ask somebody to explain it, that's where you run into problems. A lot of people think they know all about certain things until they have to explain them. And there's another thing with Mr. Apocalypse being in us. He's got a tremendous sense of the truth. So if you start lying, or you're talking or saying things you don't know what you're talking about, a certain kind of pressure is going to come down on you. And also, you're not going to have any impact because only the truth rings. Bing! It has a ring to it. And when people hear it, they know you're being straight with them, or only telling them as much as you do know, or going out of your way to let them know that you don't know, which I hope everybody understands is about me because I've said it many, many times. I don't know. Now, I do know things at the moment I'm supposed to know them by virtue of my relationship with the ineffable. He lets me know what I need to know at the time I need to know it. But I may not know it prior to that, and I may not know it afterwards either. I don't know if that makes any kind of sense. But then that's the thing with God. It's beyond reason. It's beyond any kind of measurement. And so you literally have to go mad to find God. I mean, I know that was the truth in my case. And I know for a fact I did find God. It's debatable whether God found me, but however the case, it's happened, and it happened, I don't know exactly when. I found him a long time ago, I think, but he only started talking back to me about 8 years ago. And so now it's a two-way conversation on a regular basis whenever I want to have it, pretty much. Sometimes there's no answer, but there's a reason for that. Perhaps he's waiting for me to tumble to something. Yeah, could be. Then again, you see, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, Mr. Apocalypse is very, very present now, and there's nothing you've got to remember about him. And he's a member of the First Church, the Presence of God, too, by the way. What you got to remember about him is that his presence and his power is going to intensify. It is intensifying incrementally according to the particular time sequence that we're extant in. You see, we're coming up upon several events. And so as a result, Mr. Apocalypse is going to get more and more power to do what he does, and his efforts are going to intensify much more. So you're going to start seeing things that are like, beyond belief. Many people are going to be going, did I see what I thought I just saw, or did what happened? That actually there's going to be a whole lot of that, because we've all been existing in a world that we got lied into. We're made to believe in a kind of common shared reality doesn't actually exist. Anyway, I guess that's served for a bit of an opening. What I like to do now is interact with those that I commune with, who set the stage for everything that I do, who teach me, who lead me. And I like to recognize them and honor them. And I'll explain a bit after I've done so. Divine Rishis, my nameless master, Almighty God, beloved Divine Mother, Lord Ishvara and Lord Jesus the Christ, my invisible friends and my friends from the Devic realm, you devas, angels, and elementals. Welcome and greetings to you one and all, and thank you for being present here this evening and assisting me in this presentation. I mentioned the Divine Rishis, of which the immortal Babaji is one, because they were the architects of existence a long time ago. You might call them super yogis with immense powers, incalculable really. My nameless master, I call him because I don't know his name. I met him on a beach in Big Sur on Kiln Creek, and some amazing things happened at the time, but I was unaware of it. I was completely under his spell. And then months later, he initiated through Shaktipat, I guess you would call it, my Kundalini awakening, which was as intense as, well, let's say it went on at a very high level of intensity for a few years. So it was a very, very powerful, and it's happened a few more times since, and each time, there have been a lot of supernatural events that occurred in and around it. Anyway, so I say hello to him, then of course to Almighty God. Why do I say the Rishis and my master beforehand? You're supposed to say hello to your master first. That's the protocol according to the tradition I'm part of. And the Rishis, for some reason, are always addressed first too. Then I follow with Almighty God, the Divine Mother, who is the agency, the Shakti, the power that brings into manifestation everything that you see. She's the active principle. And my monitor just went off. It does that every night at a little after 1 o'clock, and I guess I'd forgotten about that. But it doesn't seem to affect this for some reason. And so I managed to free form that right there. Anyway, and then I welcome Lord Ishvara, who is the Hindu uh, counterpart to Jesus the Christ. They're basically the same person. Then my invisible friends, sometimes I say imaginary friends, but I think it's funny. They're real, believe me. And they, their numbers, depends on who shows up. But they've been with me for a long time. And the Devic realm, that's where the angels are. And all of us have communion with the angels, and especially those of us who are intensely searching for God and have made God the centerpiece of our life and have with great intensity and up against incredible hardships or whatever may have been thrown at us, never gave up and continued. We certainly attracted angels. And believe me, I'm not the only one. Now, a lot of people are unaware of their influence in their lives. I am not. So I say hello to all of them, and I'm thankful for them being here, and it just kind of sets a stage. I mean, in every church they have a certain rituals they go through, and this is one of mine. And well, Lord, I'd like you to help me to speak truthfully in today's discourse, and make sure that I'm inspired by you and that I don't just freelance, Lord, but I go according to what I hear internally under your tutelage, Lord, because I get lost pretty quick on my own. And I guess I know better than that now. In any case, the first church of the presence of God has one basic tenet, and that is to practice the presence of God. That's basically the whole curriculum, schematic, protocol. That's the whole thing. We commune and celebrate the presence of God. Now, God is not awake in everyone. This whole existence here, it's a dream. It's God's dream. God is asleep, and he's dreaming through everyone else. And all of their lives is his dream of them going through that. Now, in some, God has awakened. In some cases, fully, and that's extremely rare. And then with everyone else, partially in 2 degrees. And then that continues to expand and become more completely that as one continues. And because one is checked out all along the way, God has to be very sure where you're coming from if you're going to represent him. He doesn't hear the kind of bad press that comes from people who misrepresent God or deceive people or suck them in, and well, all of that, if you're going to speak for God or about God and with any authority or any sincerity or force, well, you're going to have to convince God, and you can't hide anything from God. You can't conceal a thing. But so as long as you're right on and you really mean it, and you're unswavering, and you do possess faith, certitude, and determination, you're going to be okay. But as I said, in some people, God is quiescent, and then he has degrees of sentience in others. And you can tell sometimes to a degree that that is so because of the light that you can sense or apprehend in certain people. I was with the Sufi master for a number of years in Philadelphia, and he had a corona of light around him, literally. And, he was, one would say, God intoxicated. He was a saint. He was amazing. In any case, my friends, God is real. I know this to be true. Okay. I have actually met God as far as I'm concerned, and it's only me I have to convince. I don't have to convince you. You don't even have to listen to me. If you came around and you are listening to me, then maybe you're either giving me a chance to um, express whatever I have to express, or you already know you're someone who's familiar with me, or that we have a bit of a history, and so, or in some cases, you also have a similar relationship. So, yeah. And so here's the deal. God's real, absolutely and completely more real than anything else, and far more real than this world we live in. This world is a projection in Maya of temporary things. They're passing even as I speak, although it's like time-lapse photography. It takes a while. It takes a while for you to grow from a child to, a teenager, and then an adult, and the next thing you're old. It takes a while for that to go on. Then there's other time frames, like that of mountains and oceans and planets. And then there's a time frame of God's beyond all of that. So this world here, it's kind of a cartoon to God. It's a joke. He doesn't buy into any. He doesn't have to. He recognizes what's going on, and he's waiting for each of us to come to our senses so he can guide us back to his kingdom, which is our authentic and real home, where we should be living, but instead, because we were insistent and we wanted to do it our way, just like a small child with his mother, he runs off and wants to play, no, no, don't bother me, until he falls down and hurts himself or something and starts crying for his mother. Well, we do that too. And so we got ourselves caught up here and entangled in this world, and it's not real. And it's a realm of suffering. It's all suffering. Pleasure, pain, all of that. Maybe things are going real well and you're not suffering, you will. That's the nature of the manifest world. And eventually you come to an understanding of this, and you find, you're shown, usually you're shown, ways to avoid suffering. And then you no longer have to suffer, because your essential nature, my friends, is bliss. Yeah, your soul, your Atman, that part of you that's real, that travels from life to life and carries all that you learned from each life into the next one. Its nature is bliss. And if you're out here rolling in the murk and suffering and all, well, it's because of the way you behaved and things that you did, and your value system, what you thought was important, and you got all caught up in, and that's unfortunate. And yeah, and you wind up paying your dues, because every cause has an effect. Anyway, our primary objective in this life, if we don't know it now, we'll discover it at some point, possibly not in this life and possibly not for many lives yet. We each have a different set of circumstances because of what we believe, and like this, it can all change. Boom! In the blink of an eye, if you're willing, but then it's your karma that keeps you from being willing. It's these some scars and these blinders that you have that keep you from being able to see what's right in front of you. But oh my God, my friends. But our objective should be awakening. And the more that we awaken, and we come into more and more rarefied states of awareness and being, the closer we come into the proximity of angels and luminous entities and beings of an undescribable beauty. And we get our passport marked for further zones into much more luminous realms. That's there for any of you if you wish it. Or, and I'll tell you, there's some hideous ways to suffer, and not just in the flesh. There's a different kind of suffering that takes place when you leave the flesh, because the place you go, their thoughts and feelings are things. They're actual things. Now, you think about that, it might become clear to you, however, that might be a real good thing and not so good depending on what you're thinking and what you're feeling. One thing animates God more than anything else and attracts God, will bring God into your presence, and that's love. And the intensity of your love is a determinant of the speed at which God will come and the type of access that you'll have. In this time of materialism, it's very intense. All these other yogas or other paths are fraught with great dangers. It takes a very special person to negotiate these other, the path of knowledge, or there's a variety of them. But the path of love is open to all of us. It doesn't require great intellect. It doesn't require any much more than just a heart devoted to your author. And love is much like a fire, and you take a bellows, like this, exercising your love, and your love grows stronger and greater and more powerful. And then your light starts to shine, and then angels notice you. They're flying around the planet all the time. You look down and go, oh, there's a bright light down. Let's go see what's happening. And then you start to develop these companions, and I can assure you this is all very real. And yeah, I don't want to protest too much or anything like that, and just say that I have my reasons for believing this. And believe me, I was quite a screw up for a very long time, my friends. I was hard-headed and I did a lot of stupid things. But I was also extremely passionate about God. It was the number one drive in my existence. It eventually paid off. It has paid off in the only currency I care about, which is more love and more company, and more of God's company. And for a lot of people who don't really want that. They want to hang out with all these fine-looking chicks, and they want to have a lot of bread and be important, and get behind the velvet ropes and stuff. Well, I've been in those places. I don't like hanging out with those people, honest to God, man. Once you've had some experience with celebrities and people of this type, unless you're just really kind of messed up, in your head and you actually like that kind of thing, it's not entertaining. It's not fun beyond the initial, excitement and surprise, because it becomes quite a disappointment. These people are like anybody else, only worse. Yeah. Oh, well. I want to mention before, because time's getting short now and I got a couple of minutes. I've been reading a lot of Mikhail Ivanov, and I got 15 of his books from eBay for like $40. And each of these books costs about $14 or $15. And he's, The Powers of Thought, and Light is a Living Spirit, and Creation, Artistic and Spiritual, The Symbolic Language of Geometrical Figures. It's probably going to be a bit of a pain for me, that one. Cosmic Balance, The Mysteries of Fire and Water, Sexual Force, or the Winged Dragon, The Book of Divine Magic. Well, that's just some of them. And here's one. He does a whole thing about Revelation, St. John the Divine. He's one of the clearest people that I know, okay? And simple, and he's just step by step. And if you're just beginning, or you don't consider yourself that bright, or you're real tired of these complex and convoluted people, Mikhail, Master Ivanov, is an amazing fellow. And he didn't write any books like that. He just gave discourses, and they're recorded, and people turn them into books. Anyway, my friends, and time is gone. And it's time for me to bid you a good evening and wish you all well. And God bless you, and may that spirit awaken in you. May that cleansing fire of love, come fully forth in you and burn away all the negativity and purify all your shortcomings out of your being and bring you into the light. I'm sorry, I'm not the most articulate fellow and trying to say so long, getting a little caught up in it. So God bless you all, my friends, and thank you for dropping by. And I'll see you in the next discourse. Probably next thing I do will be that tarot commentary symposium that I've been threatening and haven't gotten around to doing. So God bless you all, and I will see you on up the road.